Prisoners of History. Episode 1. The Veils of the Canon. There are books that shaped the course of human civilization, and there are books that were erased from that very same story. When we look at the Bible today, we see it as a fixed, singular monument of faith, a collection that is finished, complete, and unalterable. But history tells a much messier, more human, and far more mysterious story. Before the printing press, before the digital age, and before the modern church, the ancient world was alive with thousands of competing scrolls, letters, and visions. Many of these were deemed Apocrypha, hidden, rejected, or forgotten. But are these books truly heretical, as the councils of the past once claimed? Or are they the remnants of a more diverse, more challenging, and more profound human experience than we've been led to believe? Welcome to Prisoners of History. I am your host, and today we begin a journey to uncover the evidence, to walk the thin line between necessary guidance and the deliberate pruning of the human narrative. We will not rest until we find the truth. Chapter 1. The Architecture of Silence. To understand what was lost, we must first ask, who owned the history? In the early centuries of the Common Era, there was no single Bible. Instead, there were regional collections. A community in Alexandria might revere a scroll that a community in Rome had never even seen. You had the apocalyptic fire of the Book of Enoch, the philosophical depth of the Gospel of Thomas, and the moral, legalistic structure of the Book of Jasher. For the early church, this was a moment of crisis. How do you build a global unified movement if everyone is reading different truths? The answer was the council, a series of meetings where scholars, bishops, and theologians sat down to define the canon. They were acting as curators. They were effectively deciding which voices would shape the human psyche for the next 2 millennia, and which ones would be relegated to the dust of history. Some call this a masterstroke of organizational survival. Others call it the ultimate act of censorship. We have to wonder, was the criteria for inclusion based on divine inspiration, or was it based on the need for political and social unity? When you edit a story, you change the ending, and we have been living in the edited version of history ever since. Chapter 2. The Myth of the Vault. Of course, we cannot discuss the missing without addressing the elephant in the room, the Vatican Secret Archives. Popular culture has painted this as the ultimate lair of suppressed knowledge, a place where the lost gospels are chained to the floor, guarded by those who fear what the world would do if it knew the truth. But let's step out of the shadows of conspiracy and into the light of etymology. The term Archivium Secretum Vaticanum is a perfect example of how language can deceive us. In Latin, secretum does not mean hidden or conspiratorial. It means private. It was the Pope's personal filing cabinet. These archives hold millions of documents, not cosmic secrets, but administrative letters, diplomatic correspondence, and the mundane, day-to-day bureaucracy of a centuries-old institution. But here is the irony. Even if there are no forbidden books in the basement, the suspicion persists. Why? Because we want them to be there. We as humans are biologically wired to fear that someone is holding the keys to our existence. When we look at books like the Apocalypse of Ezra, which describes the end of time in ways that are so staggering they make the hairs on your neck stand up, we feel a disconnect. We see a truth so big it feels like it needs a vault to contain it. Are we living in a free society, or are we living in a prison built by the choices of those who curated our history? Chapter 3. The 3 Pillars of Inquiry. If we are going to navigate the blurred lines between history and myth, we need a compass. Too often, we consume information based on how it makes us feel, rather than what the evidence actually says. To find the truth, we must rely on 3 pillars of inquiry. First, examine the source. Who wrote this? When did they write it? And what were their motivations? A text isn't true just because it is old. It is true because it survives the rigor of objective historical verification. Second, understand the historical context. You cannot analyze a book written in the 1st century with the mindset of the 21st. We have to understand the pressures, the wars, the social structures, and the languages that existed when these words were penned. Third, view the subject from multiple perspectives. If we only look at the history of the Bible through a single lens, we are guaranteed to miss the bigger picture. We have to look at the Catholic perspective, the Protestant tradition, the Orthodox view, and even the secular, historical critical view. Truth does not fear scrutiny. Truth invites it. If a concept is true, it will hold up even when you shine a spotlight on its darkest corners. The unfiltered origin. So I ask you today, was it right for the ancient councils to curate the record of humanity? Did they save the faith, or did they stifle the spirit? And more importantly, do you believe that humanity has the absolute divine right to access the full, unfiltered history of its own spiritual origins? We are standing on the edge of a massive revelation. In our next episode, we are leaving the familiar halls of Rome behind. We are traveling to the high mountains and hidden deserts of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church holds a canon unlike any other on earth, 81 books of deep, complex, and ancient wisdom. They kept what the rest of the world cast aside. We are going to explore why they did it and what they found that we might have missed. It is a holy journey, and we are only just beginning. Until next time, I urge you to live with healthy skepticism, with caution, and with the wisdom to ask the questions that others are afraid to. We shall not rest until we find the truth.